We're going to talk about 10 vegetables and fruits that have been mostly wiped out by the modern farming industry. Then, for good measure, we're going to talk about 10 vegetables that might be worth bringing back. The forgotten vegetables! Number 1, skirret. Skirret. This relative of carrots and parsley started out in China and then spread via trade to the Roman Empire throughout Europe. By the Middle Ages, it was a common crop, and people absolutely loved it during the Tudor era. Unlike carrots, skirret is a perennial crop that is easy to propagate from offshoots. Skirret beds can be productive year after year without having to muck about with seed starting. And if you've started carrots from seed, you know that sometimes it's a giant pain in the tuchus. Why don't we grow skirret today? 3 words: potato. When potatoes arrived from the Americas, they were easier to harvest, easier to clean, and just all around easier to prepare as a starchy root crop. While our European ancestors were busy colonizing the Americas, the potato was colonizing Europe right back. Number 2, Good King Henry. Blightum bonus henricus. That's a name. Good King Henry is another perennial crop that was replaced with an annual crop. It is an ancient food dating back to Neolithic Europe, so they were probably eating it when they were putting up Stonehenge. I doubt it was called King Henry yet, though. You can eat the younger foliage, you can eat the spring shoots, and because the spring shoots are kind of like asparagus, that's where its other name, poor man's asparagus, came from. An established bed of Good King Henry can produce food year after year with very little effort on the part of the gardener. And that has resulted in a late resurgence in recent times for more casual gardeners. Like so much royalty, Good King Henry was killed by its relative, spinach. Annual leafy greens are more amenable to mechanical harvesting and shipping and easier to package. Spinach also has a milder flavor that is just more acceptable to many of our modern palates. Number 3, scorzonera. Also called black salsify, scorzonera was considered a more refined food than regular salsify. Its history is murky, but it is assumed to have originated in Spain. It is actually still widely cultivated in European gardens. It just doesn't seem to have made its way here to the Americas. Like salsify, scorzonera is a member of the sunflower family. But unlike salsify, scorzonera is a perennial. Scorzonera and salsify likely didn't make it to the Americas because they are more difficult to harvest than other root crops. But I think their flowers are lovely, and it's not a bad idea to include them in a wildflower planting, just for emergencies. Number 4, sea kale. Sea kale is a salt-tolerant perennial member of the cabbage family. Thomas Jefferson actually grew sea kale at Monticello. By the Victorian era, sea kale was commonly eaten throughout Europe, but it tended to be a more expensive vegetable. Because it was typically harvested from wild populations, sea kale populations were very nearly wiped out, and once they became scarce enough, the vegetable itself fell out of popularity. But if you struggle with salty soil, sea kale might be worth checking out as a low-effort perennial leaf crop. Number 5, ground cherries. Also called Cape gooseberries, this is one of the few plants in this list that I actually have personal experience growing from my old garden. They didn't make it to this garden, didn't love them that much. They're about as easy to grow as tomatoes, which makes a lot of sense because they're related. Ground cherries can be a lot of fun to grow in a small garden, but there are some challenges that keep them out of commercial agriculture, which is why we don't often see them in the grocery store. Sometimes, but not very often. Their tendency to drop their fruit when it ripens makes them a little bit more difficult to harvest at commercial scale. They can also spread like weeds, which makes them really difficult to control. I noticed that one year I stopped growing ground cherries in a bed, but yes, I did. Yes, I did. They came back. Also, many pests find ground cherries to be delicious, which makes pest control a lot more expensive at a commercial scale. But they do persist in home gardens because of their unique flavors, their odd-looking little fruits, but maybe mostly their ability to adapt to container gardening. Number 6, rampions. In the fairy tale Rapunzel, a father was caught harvesting either rampion or corn salad from a sorceress's garden, and he was forced to give up his daughter to that sorceress. Rampion is a biennial that is harvested for its root during the first year of growth. Its leaves can also be harvested and eaten. It can be finicky to grow and a little bit labor-intensive to harvest, so it probably fell out of favor just because there's easier stuff to put in our gardens. Number 7, garden huckleberries. Those ain't huckleberries at all. They're actually a member of the nightshade family that is native to Africa. They're bitter if you eat them raw, but if you sweeten them and cook them into foods, they can kind of be like blueberries a little bit. They were briefly popular during the 1900s, but their bitter flavor when you eat them raw made them kind of lose out to other berries that don't have to be cooked to be enjoyed. Number 8, Hamburg parsley. Parsley isn't just a leafy garnish we put on the side of our plate. It can also be a root crop. Hamburg rooted parsley is a great twofer for the herb garden. You can use its leaves, like, parsley, during the growing season, and then during the winter you can go out and dig the roots to use in soups and salads as, starchy root stuff. Hamburg parsley is still popular in parts of Europe, especially Germany, hence the name. It probably just didn't make its way over to the Americas because we have little wimpy American palates. We like our food bland, like we like our clothing. Not me. Number 9, perpetual spinach. Perpetual spinach, or leaf beet, is neither spinach nor a beet. It's actually a type of Swiss chard that I'm looking forward to trying out in my own garden this year. People still eat Swiss chard, but this particular variety has fallen out of favor because people who like chard, and people who don't like chard don't know about this variety of chard. And if we prefer spinach, we usually just go buy spinach. For home gardeners, perpetual spinach can offer some advantages over annual spinach, though. You can harvest it throughout the summer. It doesn't fail early in the spring like regular spinach does. I've heard that it lacks the flavor that puts a lot of people off chard, so that's why I'm giving it a try, because I don't usually like chard. But if you're on the fence about it, wait till I try mine and I'll tell you whether or not it's worth the try. Number 10 is medlar. Medlar? What the heck is medlar? I don't know about you, but it's been ages since I blooded my medlar. What's that? I'm talking gibberish. Medlar was actually a fruit cultivated in Europe and especially in the Roman Empire. It was probably in cultivation for over 3,000 years. Medlar had to be softened or bletted before it was eaten. Medlar that hasn't been bletted is hard and bitter, but once it's been bletted, it kind of has the texture and flavor of applesauce. Medlar fell out of favor because, let's face it, ain't nobody got time to blet no fruit. So now that we've learned a little bit of history, let's talk about some vegetables we can actually use. But first, make sure you've liked this video and subscribed to my channel. Let's go back to perpetual spinach. As I mentioned, I'm trying perpetual spinach in my garden this year. And this video is actually the reason why I discovered it while I was researching for this video. I'm excited to find out if the leaves are actually more palatable than regular chard, and the idea of being able to harvest leafy greens through the summer, it sounds kind of amazing. Good King Henry. Good King Henry is a low-maintenance, perennial spinach alternative that really is worth trying in a modern garden. I think it may be a little bit dry for the plant in my garden, but if you live in an ecosystem that actually gets rainfall, give it a shot. Locate it in full sun if you have cooler summers, or part sun if you have warmer summers. Skillet looks like enough of a pain in the butt to harvest and clean that I'm going to stick with the traditional annual carrots. But if you like the idea of a perennial carrot that just comes back year after year for harvests without seed starting, it may be worth a try in your garden. Hamburg parsley. It's worth giving a try because it's a great twofer. If you're already planning to grow parsley, Hamburg parsley should be a no-brainer because you get that second harvest in the fall through winter, eating those tasty, tasty parsley roots. Cynara. It's worth trying for its long, straight roots with a unique umami flavor. Some people say it tastes like oysters. I wouldn't know. It has excellent pest resistance and can be planted like a carrot with a 120-day time to harvest. Orek. We hadn't talked about orek before. Also called mountain spinach, this member of the amaranth family was eaten before people ate spinach. It's still often grown in summer gardens as a summer spinach alternative. I think orek is worth trying because it has lovely red cultivars that can just add a visual pop to our garden. Sea kale. It's difficult to establish, but once established, sea kale can be part of a low-effort perennial garden. Its beautiful flowers provide support for pollinators, while its tender spring growth can be a tasty treat. And again, it's especially worth trying if you have saline soils. Cardoon. Cardoon is a lesser-known relative of the artichoke that is both beautiful and edible. Like the artichoke, they are a perennial crop that is grown as an annual in colder climates. Both the leaf stalks and the flower beds are edible in Cardoon. Crones. C-R-O-S-N-E-S. Crones. I didn't spell it. You've heard of Jerusalem artichokes, I hope, but have you heard of Chinese artichokes? Crones are a perennial tuber that's easy to keep growing once it's established. They have lovely flowers that help support pollinators. They're often eaten as a delicacy because their very thin skins make them really difficult to clean and ship. Yard-long beans. Yard-long beans, aka Chinese beans, aka asparagus beans, are like string beans on steroids. Plant them just like green beans and then harvest them once they're 1 foot to 1.5 feet long. If you're saving seeds to plant again, expect to see seed pods that are like up to 3 feet long. That was a list of unusual plants that I picked because they are climate resilient, don't need as much fertilizer, and can extend harvest seasons. All great things for a home gardener. Let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite, or do you have another weird crop to suggest? I'd love to learn about it. I've included links for many of the plants we talked about down in the description if you'd like to learn more. Remember to like and subscribe on your way out. Thank you so much for joining me here in my garden today, and I hope you have a wonderful time in your own garden.